especially when Josephine Kabura appeared this week. But we understand that this thing happened last year. It's only this week that there's renewed excitement. It's as if this scandal just was after last week. And there's renewed sense of anger. But then again, there's also a lot of this sense of helplessness. We saw it in the president when he hosted the Governance and Accountability Summit at State House and the statements he made. We saw the kind of anger that the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee had, that's Honorable Gumbo, when he was questioning Josephine Kabura. But the question to you is, so what? After now we discuss this and we say, oh, they stole, and indeed you see there was irregularities in what happened at the NYS, then what? What can this Public Accounts Committee of Parliament do for us?
I think it's clear. First, Public Accounts Committees have an inherent role to interrogate certain allegations of malpractice. The irony on this one is that some of these people are already subjects in a court of law in terms of criminal proceedings. So it's like you're giving them another forum to put up a public defense for themselves. Like I saw Mr. Mangite speak to some of the issues yesterday, saying how he was helpless, how it was only the goodwill of the head of public service, Mr. Kinyua, that told him, you know, we are confident that you can run that ministry, stay put, and etc. But what he's saying is, it sounds laudable that she had created an architecture that tended to probably alienate the peers. Whereas you know, one thing about CSs, they are literally signed to no document. The only evidence that you can have against them is probably implicate them through corroborated witness statements. So at what point does the responsibility, apart from political responsibility, of Waiguru come in? She probably has signed no documents. She probably has not sat in any tendering committee or procurement committee for that matter. None of those accounts are under her name. So unless Kabura, Mangiti, and every other person who in that hierarchy of allegations say that we want we all were directed by the CS, then maybe there could be some implication of responsibility. But on this particular one, here CSs have a way in which they can wriggle out of these issues literally unscathed, because of the fact that when you look at the government processes, there's nowhere that is required where the CS of essence appends her signature to any document.
But back to my question, and Senator Matangi, because even the Senate itself sometimes interrogates some of these matters. But then what? Because where the president said he's helpless and there's nothing more he can do, now we're seeing 1 year down the line, no conviction, and we've seen similar instances where grand corruption has gone unpunished. Goldenberg, Anglo Leasing. Now we're seeing a probe. We're carrying it live on TV. It's making headlines here. Then what? Are we going to see anything from this probe by the Parliamentary Committee, Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly? What next?
I think that last point that you made is the most important in the entire of this debate and this discussion. That what we want to see, what Kenyans now want to see and be made to believe in through action or via action, is that there is a conclusive way in which people can be made to carry their cross, to bear the punishment of the acts of corruption in this country. And you remember the debate we had here last week, and this remains true, that corruption is not something that started bedeviling this country last week or last month or last year. It has been with us, and you have captured it very well, from Goldenberg to Anglo Leasing, now to NYS, and maybe many others to come. But if you look at the story of Kamlesh Patni, and I'm not the court, but look at the whole story around Goldenberg and Kamlesh Patni and so on, how it ended. Look at the entire of all those Anglo Leasing cases and other many cases, because those were the highly profiled ones. But there are several. But if you look at from a one-inch's point of view, what really is achieved through these processes, and this current process, and I think I would want to say what Senator Hassan Omar said is pretty to the point, because it's one thing that I've been asking myself. Remember, the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly last year and early this year called all these people. Magiti has been before this committee before. Waiguru went before this committee before in the same probe. All those witnesses have been there. They said what they had to say at that particular time. Remember, these matters now are live in court and ongoing. One of the questions that has been going through my mind as I see this replaying for the last 1 week is, and largely because public account committees in Parliament are led by the opposition. By requirement of Parliament and the law. And I've been asking myself, is it because I do not see literally when we have people in court, these matters have been determined. We know there is money that was lost. Now we are trying to get people to.
It is an unnecessary process. As you said.
I mean, I'm asking myself, is it a political, exercise that is just trying to continue to blow the wind that there's corruption, because there has been, and I want to say this clearly, there has been a lot of concerted effort to try and paint the government as corrupt. That is one of the strategies that the CORD coalition has adopted. And in one of their meetings, and I can say this because I don't sit there, but we have information that they passed it through one of their meetings that the one way that you can effectively fight a government like Jubilee that is working and performing and delivering is to paint it as corrupt. If you blow the story of corruption, then definitely you can find
that the process currently going on with the PSC summoning these people is a political process led by CORD.
I've asked this question very clearly. Now, you are sure, as a reporter here, that Mangiti was before that committee. All those other people were before that committee, including Waiguru herself. This matter is in court. Those matters were all determined then that there are cases to answer. It was taken to court, isn't it? So what are you asking yourself is what is the why is it being reinvented again? Let us go through the court process, people to be prosecuted.
But let me tell you for a fact, unless maybe those people are under the influence of drugs, and none of the court members is under that influence, I can tell you for a fact, they have been no meeting that has uttered the words that a government like Jubilee that is hardworking and delivering, ever. That I can tell you for a fact, ever. And therefore, and let's say, the opposition has an inherent role of oversight. But I do agree to that extent, where literally nothing comes out of these public accounts committees. Literally nothing, unless there are other agencies that are able, that have teeth that can then interrogate. In fact, I'm one of those who's also asking the logic of why is it necessary at times for reports of the Auditor General to come to Parliament. If the Auditor General has made certain allegations, those are the institutions with capacity to interrogate these types of issues with the professionals, and divorce of the politics, divorce of the affiliations. We even see the affiliations playing out on matters corruption. You see, you look at what started to bring down my brother Babu. It was this the management of the public accounts committees. So I do appreciate sometimes that these things appear like a circus. That's why unless something comes out of it, I'm not sure what is the end game, because some of these people are already before court. Parliament has no capacity in terms of criminal investigations. The Auditor General has already made a finding. The EFCC is the one that can prosecute some of these facts. The CID, acting on a basis of neutrality and professionalism, are the ones who can interrogate this fraud. So when you summoning all these people for what charade, you know, I do agree to that extent. I'm not aware of any recommendation of a park in the current Parliament, either the park of the National Assembly or the park of the Senate, that has been prosecuted before a court of law, and anybody has been found guilty. If anything, all these reports are outstanding. And then we go through a process. I've looked at the park processes. It actually gives an opportunity for people to sanitize themselves. And how do they do it? You know, you told them, you allow them to bring documents 2 years after the fact. And you sit there and say, wow, these documents are so well done. These documents have been manufactured.
How sad. How sad, Barack Muluka. The kind of excitement is created, these headlines are creating, yet it's a process that's taking us nowhere.
Very sad from a number of platforms. Number one, that I'm listening to legislators here who are charged with the responsibility of making laws in this country. And they are the people who should make the necessary laws. If we require the cabinet secretary, for example, to sign, perhaps it's about time that Parliament legislated that they get rid of that kind of loophole and leeway that has given cabinet secretaries the opportunity to get away with things that they have themselves engineered and led. That too, if the Public Accounts Committees are not adequately functional, they could be made sufficiently functional through proper legislation. If documents are coming 2-3 years later, again, through legislation, we could make it mandatory for those documents to appear before the committees at the appropriate time. But I'm a little surprised that Senator Wamatangi suggests that Anne Waiguru is the government, because I've not seen anywhere where they have said that this government, this Jubilee government, is corrupt. I've followed these things very closely, and I have seen that they've been talking about Anne Waiguru, about somebody called Kabura Irungu, and they have talked about Manguti. I have not seen them saying that the government stole so much money, and if we start now saying this is coming out so as to show that the government is corrupt, I get a little puzzled. Anne Waiguru is here, and this is a very interesting
front page of the Daily Nation.
Of the Daily Nation that we have today. Sacked Waiguru created a graft empire, but at the same time she's offering herself as a candidate for governor in Kirinyaga. I think there's need for probity. We started this conversation here by looking at Hillary Clinton and looking at Donald Trump and their character. And there's this history here which we cannot run away from. And yes, there's a sense in which one starts getting the impression that the entire institution of government in this country is about graft, it's about stealing, and that the only agenda is about stealing. And there are those who feel sad whenever these things are brought into the limelight. We should just keep quiet about it.
But Martha Karua should keep this copy of the Nation. You know, on one side, it shows Waiguru sacked PS, Waiguru created graft empire. On another side, it shows her, Waiguru, wanting to run. But tell the people of Kirinyaga, you probably have a clear alternative. If so, this picture, this whole Daily Nation headline today is very ironic, but at the same time very instructive, because you know, on one side you are said to be you had created a graft empire, and on the other side you want to go and create another possibly graft empire in a county level now, because the county now is where now you are the real CEO, you know. So and therefore, but puts Martha at the top there and says, you know, she is now she wants now to bring her expertise and passion and her anti-graft credentials to Kirinyaga County.
Before we move to Martha Karua, are we in agreement therefore that probably this headline is serving as nothing? It's an unnecessary.
No,
will not
you know, Fred, and let me first. I don't know how to answer my friend Muluka. You know, when he says that
you are suggesting
that is the government, because it's a known fact that it's a thin veil. Because of course, you know, she served in government, and that was the story.
And she's still in Jubilee.
And well,
she's not in the government.
and so of course that is the smoke screen. That it's the game, and that's what we're saying. You know, is it? And I want to pose this question very seriously to my colleagues here, because they have that affiliation to the court fraternity.
No, I have no
really, you know, my question is this. My question is this.
You know, people say,
to what
I have affinity to Jubilee.
To what extent would we want to play out this game? How far, how deep would we want to go just to garner political mileage? To confuse Kenyans, to bring issues, really, because you see, the point I'm making, Fred, is this. The point I'm making is this. What you're saying, and that's the question I was answering. You see, you ask yourself, we know for a fact that we have said as a country, and we all feel badly, including everybody like me. I mean, I'm a father, I have kids who are looking forward into having a future in this country. I have relatives, I have come from a very poor background myself. I know what it takes to be where you are, So when you hear that people have stolen, you want to make sure that this thing is dealt with and that there is justice. But when again it becomes the political tool, because in this NOSS you have asked this question, we know these matters were prosecuted, they are there, we want to see justice, we want to see truth, it's in court, deal with it. But you also don't want people to keep running there, bring it out, because now you're the ones who are leading this PAC committee in parliament, reinvent it, bring it anew.
What
wrong
does not tell you. True as it might be that the PAC might be led by a member of the opposition, but the same PAC has more members from the Jubilee coalition based on party strength. So even in terms of decision making, and if you look at the preferred candidate for the opposition with respect to the PAC was Mbadi. Mbadi was the one nominated by court to become the chair. So our brother, the current chair, Gumbo, in collusion with Jubilee coalition, now torpedoed a decision. So in fact, that's why we are asking ourselves, even as we go to these meetings or elections, should it be that, you see, who should bear? When the PAC of the Senate, we had at some point decided on Boni Khalwale. Then Jubilee brought a candidate, and we de-whipped him swiftly. And now we have the candidate who's preferred by the Code Coalition, who is Professor Nyong'o, in terms of building consensus moving forward. So even the makeup of the PAC needs to be interrogated in terms of standing orders. You need to agree that the opposition members need to form the bulk of those committees in terms of decision making, if they are necessarily to oversight.
Fred, a very quick one on that point.
I can tell you,
Senator Wamatangi is being diversionary. I think there are serious issues which have come out, and they are going to continue to inform public conversation until this matter is rested one way or the other.
So it's just beneficial in terms of public
information. Don't really count to me. If I should have any concern here, it would probably be to the extent that somebody could go to court and say that in fact I've been addressed elsewhere, and these proceedings now become prejudicial to me, and they could use that as an escape route from a fair trial. But if there is theft of this kind, and remember, we have not said anything yet about the goings on in the health ministry, and we don't know what else is happening elsewhere. And yes, if a government is sitting there and there's all this going on, it doesn't matter where this information comes from. That alone is good enough for that government to be told, go home. And Senator Wamatangi should distance himself from that kind of government and other, because I know he's not a corrupt person. He should join progressive forces and become part of a progressive future. He should not defend corrupt regimes.
No, I cannot defend corrupt people. And Bernard, my position is this.
Barak.
My brother Muluka, let me tell you, my position has been very simple.
Yes.
That corruption is not born in the name of parties.
So don't defend them.
Or coalitions.
Yes.
Or movements or communities. It is individual.
Yeah.
When Wamatangi decides to become corrupt and steals money, they go and eat it with your wife and with your children and with your kin. Not as a party.
Yes.
And that's why I've been insisting that when we find people who are corrupt, let's stop this story about we community, we this party.
Yeah, and being
let
fair.
people carry their cross. But you heard Fred, well, my good friend here, Senator Hassan, says on the question of the leadership of parties, like the case that he refers to very clearly in the park in Senate. Everybody decided that we wanted to give the leadership to one of the members of CORD from Kisii, Senator Mongare, and we backed it. But they felt that that person whom we had all agreed from Kisii to lead the park was not good enough, and they wanted to bring somebody of their own who is more coded. But we all agreed finally, and you see now the way they are reveling in Kisii, and you know, after kicking out somebody from Kisii.
Gentlemen,
in fact, we should play that politics.
Yes,
and
gentlemen, what this headline has effectively done is
Kisii.
move the discussion from what is happening at the Ministry of Health to NYS, but unfortunately, as you say, it might go nowhere. It's only for public information, but the probe by the PSC, the National Assembly, might end up nowhere.
Let me tell you, that graft empire, I've had the benefit of being in politics for 3.5, 4 years now. That graft empire runs deep across the political class, no matter which side of the coalition they're in. They have created graft empires at the county levels. Court counties, whatever counties are equally corrupt. You can see the pillage and the wastage. You can see the kind of you know, affluence and literally arrogant, you know, spending, you know, in terms of wastefulness. It is a national culture that is deeply perverting the space. Yes. And until Kenyans also come into the center of tackling graft, by now appointing an anti-graft empire, by people who are able to hold sacred the kinds of you know, resources that are allocated to them. So you look at this very NYS saga, you know that they are just interrogating some of these issues. They are not interrogating the NYS saga, where members of parliament have been mentioned from both sides of the divide. Yeah, beneficiaries. Beneficiaries.
From your side.
From our side. And that's why when I go to these court meetings, I got so annoyed sometimes. I raise these things very passionately. Our governors are being mentioned in schemes of corruption. Why, you know, we need to, you know, state it for what it is. So when you look at even some of the members of the National Assembly, who are some of the loudest members on the political platforms, yeah, even you can connect how they were able to get some of these NOS deals, because when you see some of the names that are coming out in this whole interrogation, they are part of the perpetrators. 300 million, 400 million. They were given these Huduma centers to build literally through you know single sourcing. So if we're interrogating corruption, let's interrogate it holistically, and let that report that once. That was one of the most the report that got lost almost immediately from public domain. Can you guys now in the media, with the same zeal that you've brought in the report of the internal audit of the 5 billion and others, can you bring that one, because there are quite a number of members of the National Assembly who are in that scheme.
Okay. Now I need us to move to another discussion, and it's about the entry of Martha Karua. Of course, we mentioned briefly about it, but it reduced the number of presidential candidates, the ones we had in the last elections. Of course, you've seen Peter Kenneth shelve his ambitions. Now he's running for governor, probably of Nairobi, Murang'a, or any other place. Martha Karua now is indicating that she's going for governor of Kirinyaga. It's shaping up to be a two-horse race. Whoever will be called flag bearer, and Jubilee's Uhuru Kenyatta.
Well, we have heard that Peter Kenneth will be running on a KNC ticket, and I want to think that Peter Kenneth is a very serious candidate.
For governor or
for governor? Yes, is a serious candidate for governor here. When it comes to presidency, we have been hearing about something called NASA. We don't know whether it's going to grow into anything full-fledged, or it's one of those ideas that just reared up their heads and they disappear that quickly. But yes, so far it looks like it is CORD versus Jubilee. Yes. And in any event, the other candidates were quite on the periphery.
And
so I don't think much has changed.
Yes, Martha Karua is one of the candidates that, one of the people you were hoping to form a super alliance with within the CORD coalition, and now she's going for governor.
I think Martha brings the necessary integrity in any coalition arrangements or even in her own person. I think I'm one of, you may not know this, I do have some misgivings about certain positions she might have held that I may not have agreed with her. But I have enormous respect for Martha Karua. For me, when somebody can run the full course in a political cycle and not be mentioned in a penny of graft, especially where graft defines politics, that politicians capture the state to steal, and she will do every other thing but realize the sacredness of the resources that belong to the public. Right now, elections in 2017 must be about character and corruption.
Okay.
Yeah, so when some people like Martha add spice to the kind of, Kenya in terms of building a culture of integrity. Yes, I know there are allegations even from my side about her role in some of the areas of departure. But when it comes, but the same people who are also stealing the country left, right and center. So I think for me, Martha is also being realistic in one regard. These counties have become theaters for socio-economic development. If you can't capture the national states, capture these states. And if you have about 30, 40 counties in progressive hands, then it is able to introduce a regime of government and governance that actually is about service delivery and accountability. So I think even I keep telling young good men and women out there, go in and capture some of these executive functions, because executive functions give you the capacity to dream and to implement policies and visions and political ideologies that tend to marry with what you need, what you require. So I think Martha could be an extremely good value addition, not only to